Righto, you guys are in for a treat. If you ever wanted to know what makes a good spotter, some of the best in the business, we got BMS Paul, BMS Thomas. So if you guys could answer some questions about the importance of a spotter, why do you need one if you want to do racing, and what makes a good spotter? And you guys are the perfect people to explain this.
So the main benefit for me having a spotter is that they're your eyes outside of the drone, right? You're only looking at what's going on directly in front of you. You don't know what's happening around you, if you're approaching traffic, if maybe someone's about to catch up to you and you need to adjust your pace. The beauty of having Dad with me, spotting me line of sight, is that he can see what's going on around the drone that I can't see. So he's telling me that I'm catching traffic, or if maybe I need to push a little more. Pretty much my radar.
It's seeing what he can't see and giving him some guidance. So quite often if there's traffic, I'm sort of looking ahead to see where the traffic is. And as he's approaching them, I'll actually try and count down. So I'll be like 3, 2, 1, now. And he knows when I say now, somewhere in that vicinity, there'll be a drone.
Yeah.
So he's ready. He's not going to just blindly take that gate. It's just minimizing the potential for accidents.
There's another way of spotting, which is a little bit different. It's not my favorite method, but not everyone's the same. So for example, with Dad, he doesn't practice much and he doesn't take the time really to learn the tracks very much. So usually my spotting with Dad is actually more encompassing track direction, which way you're going, what elements coming up, and then also just trying to keep you calm.
And even like some of the pilots were talking about areas of the track they're having trouble with. Oh, I've got to keep in mind, I've got to go wider over there because I keep cutting too close. And that's where a spotter sometimes comes in handy, where they're focused on the racing and you can turn around and say, go wide.
And do you have different techniques? Like, do you respond differently to different things, or you have a...
I'd say they're different, but it's more bespoke to the pilot.
Yep.
Where in my case, like, I have a very strong idea of what I want to do with my flying. So Dad is purely telling me drones coming up, traffic, etc. Right?
Like I won't actually...
Yeah, you're literally my radar.
Yes.
I'm more like your rally navigator.
The only time I'll actually direct him and ask him to do something, if he's miles ahead and there's a bunch of quads and I think he's not going to get through, I'll just say abort. But the only time I'll ever say that, and he'll know, just do a go around, let them clear, then go back through again. Only time I'll do that if he's miles ahead.
Yeah.
So maybe
when you can give that up.
When you give that up. But other times,
if
yeah.
he's in front, he doesn't know how much leeway.
Exactly. So if I say abort, he knows he's got no one behind him. He's got plenty to, rather than try and risk going through with 3 quads trying to hit the same gate and him being number 4. So like you said, it's actually bespoke to the pilot.
Do you have any code words, or do you practice any calls out, or any little techniques or that you use?
Not really. We used to a little bit back in the day, but to be honest, I think it's we're coming up on 9 years of...
We've
wild
reduced
racing
the
properly.
information to just what's required.
Yes. All right.
So usually when someone asks me to spot, my first reaction is, what information do you need? And if they don't know, that makes it really difficult, because then I could be overloading them with information.
Yep.
You're in second, you're third, but they don't want to know that, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Or some pilots will want to know what position they're in.
Yeah, for example, with when I compete over in DRA and I'm supporting Killian, he wants the gap to the other pilots, and he wants that called every few seconds. So he wants to know, like, is he 2 seconds off first, or is he first place and the second place is 2 seconds behind? So the style of spotting I'm giving to him is completely different again.
Mm-hmm. What tips would you give to somebody now if they want to get into racing and they might not have a spotter? What would you tell their friend, or what advice would you say, hey, this might be some information you can do?
If you don't normally have a spotter and you have the opportunity to have one, I think you should look at what information is most important to you. Do you want to know where the other drones are? Do you want to be reminded of how to do a specific section of the course? Then you can relay that to your spotter so they can help you with that point and give you the information you want, or hopefully close to what you want, rather than just sort of extra, audible clutter.
Do you think you need to be slightly vulnerable and open to the criticism and feedback to improve, to really trust that person and say, hey, you need to do this, or this would really help you, and be malleable to be able to change what your approach is and what you're doing?
Yes, if they're your coach.
Yeah.
So it depends really what they're doing.
It depends if you've got a good relationship, to build a good relationship.
100%.
You are really receptive, would you say, to what your dad is telling you and willing to how you're flying, and vice versa?
Yeah, correct. Because one thing, like, for me, I guess because I've done it for so many years now, I can take on a lot of different spotting styles where, especially when I'm overseas and I'm on my own, usually I can grab almost anyone and be like, okay, how do you normally spot? They'll sort of tell me how they do it, and I'll pick, okay, these points that you do naturally, give me those ones. Yeah. And then I'll sort of filter out the rest on my own and make do, right? Yeah. Not all pilots are like that. You develop that over time. And then you've got the people that you do, like with Dad, where we can, you'll tell me, oh, you're a bit wide here, you want to tighten up after the race, not during the race.
So I won't do the coaching won't happen during the race. The only time the coaching happens during the race is if someone's really nervous and they're a beginner, you might want to try and get it relaxed. Just slow down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Slow down over, you know you have trouble here, just reminding them the aspects of the track they have difficulty in.
Sort of like freeing up some of their mind, their
Absolutely.
computation.
So they're in race
Focus
mode.
on the sticks, and you're computing for them.
They're going through this straight. It's really quick. It's easy, but they're going to hit a technical bit. Just a reminder, you need to slow down for this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, now I've got it. Now you're right to go again.
And I guess for the final thing, if somebody's serious and they really want to push into those upper echelons, do most people have a spotter? Most pilots have a spotter? Recommended?
Yeah, most have a spotter. Not all do. I think it's really pilot to pilot dependent.
Okay.
So there's no right or wrong way.
Do you recommend it? For you, I guess it's obviously...
I recommend it if you can have it, because at the very least, you know what's going on around you, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a heat, say it's me, MCK, Killian, Wilf, right? We're all racing as hard as we can, and then two of them crash out, you're about to make it to the next bracket. Is there any point fighting with first or second?
We've seen that happen where someone doesn't know, the other two pilots that we're chasing are no longer in the race, and they're still sending it, and then they crash out.
Yeah, so having a spotter in that scenario could be the difference between riding off your machine needlessly or just making it through a heat nice and safely. So I'd say it's advisable, absolutely not necessary. At that point, especially if you're in a final, at that point you're just sending, right? So.
And the final, what it is going to what it is. There's not going to be lap traffic in the finals, you know what I mean? So, you know, it's just go.
Yeah, but if you have the computational power to take on that information while you're flying, I mean, it just means you've got more knowledge than the other pilots. It's happening real time, so it's not really a disadvantage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All the best today. I am so stoked. How are we feeling, I guess, about the race? We're about to see I'm going to put some DVR on screen and things as well. How are we feeling?
Feeling good. The qualifying's really intense this morning.
Yeah, it was close. It's like such top tier good racing here in Brisbane. So for the Mission 2025 Drone National. So, all right. Best of luck, Thomas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. Why are you doing this, Thomas? If that's just DVR.
Correct. So this is first pack of the day. To be honest, in the Brisbane summer, it's probably actually not so bad, but especially in the winter months when your fingers are really cold, basically you need to kind of warm up your muscles, right? Your thumbs. So this is a really great way just to get the brain starting to fire up, get the thumbs start to move. Not moving too aggressively, but just sort of getting a feel for it again. That way when I go on the blocks for my first flight, it's more just climatizing to the real world rather than trying to, you know, get all your tendons nice and loose and comfortable.
Yes. Look at this, you can even land without being on the sticks.
Oh, it's so
and
great.
No battery.
Yeah, disarmed. It's all doing it myself. It's still lapping for me.
Too easy.
Yeah.
All right, that is a fantastic little tip. Maybe
thank you.
people
I picked
didn't
it
know.
up in China. A lot of the Chinese pilots do it over there because they've got maybe 400 pilots at a race.
Yeah,
one pack a day.
Pack. Yeah,
so you literally need to do everything you can to make that one pack magic.
Yes.
Realistically, once you've done this once and your thumbs will be fine. You don't really need to do it again. But just get all the tendons nice and loose and happy.
I love it. That's a great tip. Thank you.
Thank you.